Virgo, something's draining you. And it's not love. Virgo, you've been feeling tired in a way sleep can't fix. You walk away from people who say they care, and somehow you feel more lost than before. You keep asking yourself, why do I always give so much, only to end up empty? Here's the truth, your energy is being contaminated, not by bad people, but by too many people. And the more you try to love like everyone else, the more you lose pieces of yourself. What I'm about to reveal will explain why your relationships never feel clean, why your heart can't move on, even when your mind says it's over. Stay with me until the end, because if you miss this, you'll keep repeating the cycle. You know, Virgo, from the outside looking in, people might assume you're just picky or too closed off when it comes to love. But the truth runs so much deeper than that. You weren't made to date like everyone else. You weren't designed to casually jump from person to person, collecting stories and scars like trophies. Your energy doesn't just bounce off others, it absorbs, it remembers. And every connection, no matter how small it seems, leaves a trace. That's why, after just 1 or 2 dates, you sometimes feel drained, foggy, or even strangely sad. It's not because you're weak, it's because you're wired differently. Imagine your energy like a delicate filter, one that purifies and refines everything it touches. Most people can have conversations, flings, or relationships and just shake it off when it ends. You can't. You internalize it. You carry it. And over time, without even realizing it, you start to lose the clarity of who you truly are because you've picked up so many fragments of other people's energy. That's why relationships can feel so heavy for you, even when they seem light for others. It's not about what happened on the surface, it's about what was transferred underneath. And here's the thing, this isn't just about romantic relationships. This goes for friendships, family ties, and even casual emotional encounters. You're constantly reading between the lines, feeling what others don't say, soaking up their moods and burdens. That's a beautiful gift, but it also means you need to be more careful than most. Because if you're not, you'll find yourself feeling cloudy, disconnected, and unsure why you can't seem to move forward in love or even in life. Now let's talk about what all that energy buildup actually does. Think of yourself like a crystal. The more dust and residue it collects, the less it shines. That's what's happening when you spread your energy across too many people. You start to dim. Not because you're broken, but because you're carrying things that were never meant to be yours. And unless you take time to cleanse and release, you end up confusing your own frequency with someone else's. That's why your intuition feels off. That's why you might be drawn to people who aren't good for you, or push away the ones who are, because you're not feeling from a place of clarity anymore. So if you've ever looked back on your past and thought, why did I even get involved with that person? Or why can't I stop thinking about them, even though it's over now? You know, your energy is sacred. It deserves protection. You're not here to blend in with the way the world does love. You're here to show the world what love looks like when it's intentional, clean, and transformative. Virgo, let me say this again. Let's go a little deeper into something most people overlook, your energetic design. Virgo, when you connect with someone, you don't just share space or conversation. You literally open a part of your energy field to them. And once that door opens, even a crack, energy flows both ways. You're not just giving, you're receiving, whether you want to or not. You're like an emotional sponge, but more refined. Most people soak up the surface, the mood, the tone, the vibes. But you absorb the blueprint, the hopes, the fears, the unresolved wounds. It's not just that you're empathic, it's that your system is wired to feel the underlying patterns of another person's emotional world. And that, Virgo, is where your exhaustion begins. Because when you absorb so much, your system gets confused. Your mind starts to think those emotions belong to you. Suddenly, you're feeling anxious or low, and you have no idea why. You're carrying around grief, insecurities, or doubts that didn't originate from you. They slipped in through emotional proximity. And if you've been in back-to-back relationships or talked to too many emotionally charged people in a short time, this confusion amplifies. You might find yourself waking up tired even after a full night's sleep, or getting irritated by things that never used to bother you. If this is already hitting something inside you, pause for a second and look at the time. Seriously, what time is it right now? Comment the exact time you're watching this, because there's a reason the universe pulled you in at that hour. I'll reveal what that specific time means in an upcoming message, but only for those who felt called to show up right now. Don't ignore it. This might be your first sign. Your body becomes the first alarm bell: headaches, fatigue, tension. Then comes the emotional wave: indecision, emotional numbness, or even random waves of sadness. It's not that you're broken, it's that you're overwhelmed by energetic clutter. Now imagine doing this over and over again, meeting new people, going on dates, catching feelings, processing their lives alongside your own. Multiply that by months or years, and you're not just dealing with energetic fatigue, you're carrying a library of other people's stories inside of you. It's no wonder you can't hear your intuition clearly. It's no wonder you feel stuck. Let me give you an example. A woman I once knew, also a Virgo, used to say that every time she ended a relationship, she felt like she had to start her life all over again. Not because she was heartbroken, but because she couldn't remember who she was before the connection began. That's how deep your system merges. You don't do light or casual. Even when you try, your energy doesn't play along. So what do you do about it? The first step is to acknowledge that this is real. This is not just sensitivity, it's energetic intelligence. And once you respect it, you can begin to manage it. You don't have to cut people out completely, but you do have to slow down. Give your system time to recalibrate. Protect your space. Journal after deep conversations. Rest after intense emotional interactions. Say no to people who only bring noise and never bring clarity. And most importantly, Virgo, understand this: your gift is not a weakness. Your ability to connect deeply is sacred, but it comes with a responsibility to filter wisely. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not everyone should be allowed to leave fingerprints on your soul. You're not selfish for protecting your energy. You're wise. You're finally learning how to preserve your power instead of giving it away just to keep the peace. This is the beginning of energetic maturity. The moment you stop absorbing by accident and start connecting with intention, everything shifts. Let's talk about something most people never consider: how your birth date, within the Virgo cycle, actually affects the way your energy responds to relationships. Not all Virgos absorb and process energy in the exact same way. Depending on when you were born, the energetic weight hits you differently. And once you understand this, it makes so much more sense why certain patterns keep showing up in your love life. If you were born between August 23rd and September 2nd, you probably struggle the most with overthinking. When you get close to someone, your mind starts analyzing everything: their words, their tone, their past, even what they didn't say. And while this mental sharpness can protect you, it also causes you to spiral into indecision. You can love someone deeply and still feel unsure, not because the love isn't real, but because your system gets flooded with too much data, making it hard to hear your heart. Now, if your birthday falls between September 3rd and September 13th, your biggest challenge might be around self-worth. Every relationship you enter leaves an imprint on how you see yourself. You might notice that after a breakup, you don't just lose the relationship, you question your value. You wonder if you were enough, if you were too much, or if you should have done something differently. Your energy gets tangled in self-doubt, and it can take a long time to rebuild your confidence. And finally, if you were born between September 14th and September 22nd, your sensitivity lies in your intuition. You may find it hard to know whether a feeling is yours or someone else's. After spending time with certain people, you might feel overwhelmed, off-center, or suddenly anxious for no clear reason. It's because your energy field is so open, it picks up other people's emotional frequencies and mixes them with your own. This makes it difficult to trust your gut, even though your intuition is naturally powerful. Knowing which group you fall into isn't about labeling yourself, it's about clarity. When you know your sensitive point, you can better protect it. You can catch yourself when you start to spiral, shut down, or absorb what isn't yours. That's how you begin to love yourself with precision. That's how you keep your energy clear. Let's talk about your energy. Virgo, not just as something spiritual or abstract, but as something you can picture and feel. Imagine your energy like a crystal clear, powerful, and uniquely structured. When it's untouched, it radiates a frequency that's unmistakably yours. People are drawn to it, not because it's loud, but because it's pure. But the thing about crystals is they don't stay clear forever if you don't clean them. Every interaction, every emotional entanglement, even every conversation leaves. Now take it a step further. Imagine your energy like a natural spring. You are a source of refreshing, grounding clarity for the people around you. They come to you to feel calmer, more centered, more whole. But what happens when too many people come to drink from that spring without giving anything back? The water runs cloudy, the source gets depleted, and if you don't stop to protect and replenish it, eventually there's nothing left to give. This is what happens when you spread your emotional energy across too many directions. Each connection, each romantic involvement, even each emotional flirtation takes a little bit of your essence with it. You might not feel it at first, it could be subtle. A few nights of restless sleep, a lack of motivation, a sense of disconnection from your deeper self. But over time, that subtle shift becomes a heavy fog. You can't hear your intuition as clearly. You stop recognizing your own needs. And the worst part, I've known Virgos who once radiated like a lighthouse, but after years of carrying other people's stories, heartaches, and confusion, they began to dim. Not because they lost who they were, but because they never paused to clean the lens. They kept giving, connecting, helping, without stopping to ask if those people were even meant to be in their energetic space. You have to remember, Virgo, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should be allowed to leave their fingerprints on your energy field. Your sensitivity is not a burden, it's a barometer. When you start to feel overwhelmed, foggy, or ungrounded, that's not weakness. That's your inner guidance system telling you it's time to reset. So what can you do? First, slow down. Take inventory of who you've been allowing into your energy lately. Ask yourself, does this person nourish me, or do they drain me? Do I feel clearer after I talk to them or more confused next? Build rituals of energetic cleansing into your life. That might mean spending quiet time in nature, journaling your emotions, meditating, or even just sitting with yourself without distractions. Let your energy settle. Let your essence rise back to the surface. Because when you're clear, Virgo, you're unstoppable. You can walk into any room and instantly shift the atmosphere. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing everyone around you. But it all begins with clarity. And clarity begins with protection. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Virgo, clarity is your superpower. Virgo, clarity E. Let's talk about your mind for a minute. Virgo, because honestly, it's one of your greatest assets, but it can also be the very thing that burns you out. You have a natural gift for analysis, When you meet someone, you don't just notice their smile or their voice. You're scanning for patterns. You're picking up on inconsistencies, unspoken motives, the way they treat the waiter, the words they don't say. It's not judgment, it's precision. And that ability to read people deeply, it's a kind of emotional. But here's the problem. That superpower only works well when your system isn't overloaded. If you're dividing your attention between too many people, whether romantically, socially, or even professionally, your inner radar starts to short circuit. It's like trying to watch 10 different security cameras at once. Eventually, you miss something. You stop trusting what you see, and that leads to second-guessing everything. I've seen this happen so often with Virgos. They start out sharp, grounded, incredibly clear on who they are and what they want. But after a string of emotionally complex relationships, their clarity starts to fade. They begin to tolerate things they would have never accepted before. They start shrinking their boundaries just to make things work. And slowly, their energy gets tied up in managing confusion rather than building connection. One Virgo woman told me that after years of trying to stay open and not be too picky, she found herself completely lost in a relationship with someone who looked perfect on paper but never really saw her. She said, "I kept telling myself to give it more time, but the more time I gave, the more invisible I felt." That's the danger when your analytical gifts get scattered. You end up rationalizing what should be non-negotiable. So how do you protect this gift? By being selective. You don't need a dozen people to practice discernment on. 1 or 2 meaningful connections are more than enough. When your emotional field is clear, your intuition sharpens. You see things for what they are, not what you hope they'll be. You hear what someone's really saying, not just their words, but the energy behind them. And when that happens, Virgo, you stop wasting time. You stop settling. You stop pouring your brilliance into people who can't receive it. Instead, you begin to invest in people who reflect your values, who speak your emotional language, who honor your boundaries without needing to be reminded. This is the power of focused energy. When your attention is no longer scattered, your entire system lights up, your clarity returns, your confidence rebuilds, and most importantly, your heart finally feels safe enough to open, not because you're taking a risk, but because you've chosen wisely. You were never meant to be confused in love. That's not your nature. Your nature is to know, to sense, to see clearly. Let's bring you back to that. Virgo, you see the truth when your energy is focused. Let's get something straight. Virgo, your standards are not the problem. In fact, they are the solution. We live in a world that glorifies fast love, quick connections, and emotional shortcuts. But you were never built for that kind of surface-level living. You weren't meant to skim across the top. You were made to dive deep. You were made to feel fully, to connect soul to soul, to transform and be transformed. Modern dating culture might tell you to stay casual, to play the field, to collect experiences like badges of honor. But what they don't tell you is that this culture is leaving people more disconnected than ever. People are confusing chemistry with compatibility, passion with purpose, and validation with love. And here's where you come in, not just as someone trying to survive this landscape, but as someone born to shift it. Your energy, Virgo, is like a tuning fork. When it's clear and grounded, it brings others into alignment. You might not even notice it, but when you walk into a space, people breathe easier. They speak more truthfully. They feel safer. That's your gift. You hold a frequency that awakens something better in others. But that frequency only stays strong when you protect it, when you refuse to water yourself down just to make others comfortable. And let's be honest, that's not always easy. Sometimes it feels like being selective means being alone. Sometimes it feels like people don't understand why you need depth, or why you pull away when things feel shallow. But the truth is, Your need for intentional connection is not a flaw. It's leadership. You're not avoiding love, you're raising the standard for what love should feel like. One Virgo man told me he spent years thinking he was broken because he couldn't do casual. But when he finally leaned into his nature, everything changed. He stopped apologizing for his standards. He stopped wasting energy trying to make lukewarm connections work. And that's when he attracted a partner who wasn't just intrigued by his depth, but matched it. That's what happens when you stop playing by society's rules and start honoring your own. You magnetize people who are emotionally mature, spiritually ready, and deeply respectful of what you bring to the table. You stop convincing, and you start aligning. So, no. Virgo, your standards are not too high, they're sacred. They're spiritual boundaries that protect your ability to love at the level you were designed for. And every time you say no to something that doesn't meet that level, you say yes to the future you actually want. You're not here to be everyone's favorite. You're here to be fully yourself and to attract the kind of connection that reflects your truth, your growth, your purpose. This isn't about being better than anyone else. It's about being brave enough to want more than what the world settles for. It's about modeling a different way to love, one that's real, rooted, and revolutionary. Because when you love like that, Virgo, you don't just change your life. You change the entire vibration of every space you enter. Virgo, your energy shift. This is the moment. Virgo, the one where everything starts to shift. Because now, you're not just hearing words, you're feeling a truth rise up inside you that's been there all along. You're realizing that your patterns haven't been mistakes, they've been messages. Your pain wasn't random, your confusion wasn't weakness. Every relationship that drained you was showing you exactly where your boundaries needed to be stronger, where your heart needed to be protected more intentionally, and where your soul. And I need you to really hear this, your desire to pull away, to be more selective, to crave solitude that's not you being broken or jaded. That's you healing. That's your nervous system saying enough. That's your soul remembering what it feels like to be in alignment. For so long, you've felt torn between wanting to stay open and needing to protect your peace. And now, you don't have to choose. You can be open and protected. You can love without leaking your life force. Virgo, the reason this part of your journey feels so intense is because it's the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. It's the uncomfortable, sacred space of transition. The old version of you said yes too quickly, gave too freely, trusted too easily. The new version, she listens, she observes, she chooses, not from fear, but from clarity. And when that shift happens, your whole life recalibrates. The people who once drained you will start to fade. The ones who are meant for you will recode. This is not about isolation. It's about purification. It's about making your energy so clear, so aligned, that the only connections you allow are ones that respect that clarity. You're not here to prove your worth by how much you can endure. You're here to honor your worth by how wisely you choose. And yes, it might mean being alone for a season, but that season is sacred. That stillness is healing you in ways you can't yet see. So if you've been wondering why you've been pulling back from people, why your tolerance for small talk, shallow relationships, or emotional chaos has dropped, it's not because you're changing for the worse. It's because you're changing for the better. You're evolving. You're waking up. You're returning to yourself. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real love story here, not you finding the right person, but you finally finding your own frequency again and falling in love with it. If any part of this has resonated with you, if you've felt this shift lately, I want you to comment below, "I'm coming back to me," because that simple phrase is a declaration, and every Virgo who sees it will know they're not alone in this return. Let's bring this home. Virgo, You've heard a lot today, not just about your patterns in love, but about your deeper energetic truth. And maybe for the first time in a long time, something inside you feels understood, seen, validated. That feeling, that's alignment. That's the sound of your soul exhaling. So what now? What do you actually do with all of this? You start by slowing everything down. No more rushing into connections just to avoid being alone. No more letting other people's needs drown out your inner voice. This is your season to pause, to breathe, to gently peel back the layers of other people's energy and find your own again. Start simple. Take a walk without your phone. Journal what you're feeling, even if it doesn't make sense. Spend time in nature. Touch something real. Drink water slowly. Light a candle and sit in silence. These moments may seem small, but they're medicine. They're how your nervous system recalibrates. They're how you rebuild trust with yourself. And when someone new shows up in your life and don't panic. Don't default to your old patterns. Take your time. Ask yourself, does this person see me? Or do they just need something from me? Do I feel more like myself around them? Or less? The right connection will never ask you to dim your light in order to be loved. In fact, the right person will be drawn to your clarity, your depth, your emotional intelligence. You're not asking for too much, Virgo. You're just finally refusing to settle for too little. And that shift in you, that's what makes everything else shift too. So here's what I want you to do next. If anything in this video resonated, if even one sentence made you pause and feel something, comment below, "I'm coming back to me." Because those 5 words are more than a comment. They're a spell, a declaration, a signal to the universe that you're no longer willing to betray your energy just to belong. And if you want more guidance on how to protect your energy, how to call your power back, and how to attract the kind of connection you truly deserve, make sure you're subscribed. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. There's a whole series coming that's going to walk you through the step-by-step of energetic healing for Virgo. You're not behind, you're right on time. And the version of you that's been waiting to be seen, she's almost here. Virgo, healing happens in the pause.